Hello and welcome to another Canguro English Daily Digest. My name is Christian and today is Tuesday. Best day of the week. Of course it's the best day of the week. Well, actually, for a lot of people, Tuesday is not a very good day because it's so far to the weekend. And so there's so many days of work before the weekend. So I thought today we would do something a bit more fun to help you feel good on this beautiful Tuesday. And to do that, we're going to talk about audio and visual illusions and what they can tell us about language learning. So we actually need to start with today's word of the day, and today's word of the day is prime. This comes into English from Latin primus, and it basically means first. So you can find it in things like a prime number. On television you have prime time, which is the number one time to have your ad on television. You can also find this hidden in other European languages, like, for example, in Spanish, primavera, which means spring, because it's the first time when the flowers spring open. And prime is also a verb. Prime as a noun is quite common, but prime as a verb, maybe you don't know this. So, I can prime you. So think about what that could mean. I can make you number one? No. What it means is I can do something first. So, for example, in the World War I, when they had those long guns, right? And you had a big stick, and you had to put the gunpowder in the gun, right? And then you'd shove it in the gun, and then you had one shot, okay? That was called priming the gun, and you used a primer. And you had to prime the gun, you had to get it ready first. But I can prime a gun, and I can also prime you. I can use the psychology of priming. So let's start by looking at a picture. So have a look at this picture. What do you see? Okay. Now let's have a look at the next picture. Ready? Okay, so now what do you see? Now again, let's have a look at this picture. And now let's have a look at the same one again. So hopefully, if the experiment worked correctly, the first time I showed you that sketch, you saw a man with glasses. And the second time I showed you the exact same sketch, you saw a mouse. And that's because I was priming your brain to prepare for an image. I was preparing you first before I showed you something else. And this effect can also affect the way that you learn and process languages. This is a very famous example that is circulating constantly around the internet. So have a look. It's Olni surmat poelp can ride tis. Well, of course, any English native speaker can actually read this text at pretty much the same speed as they read normal text. So you can see it says, only smart people can read this. Couldn't believe that I could actually understand what I was reading. The phenomenal power of the human mind, according to research at Cambridge University. It doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and last letter be in the right place. The rest can be a total mess and you can still read it without a problem. So there's a few things in here that are not true. The first thing is that this has nothing to do with Cambridge University. The second thing is that also you cannot just mix all of the letters up in the middle. Okay, there is actually a limit to how much you can jumble this text. There's a limit, okay, before people are like, oh my god, what does this mean? But it is a really fascinating example of how our prior experience with language, all of the years of my life that I have been reading and understanding language, has primed me to be able to understand this. Okay? Now think about that. So think about how that affects your language learning. It means that every book you read, every conversation you enter into, every podcast you listen to, or radio show or whatever, they are all preparing your brain for all of the other English that you're going to hear. And that's why we need to move on to our next illusion, which is actually an audio illusion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just play this illusion. It was an example given to a reporter from the website Gizmodo. Are you ready?
So what you'll hear is a sentence, a spoken sentence, that's been transformed by a computer to sound like gibberish. So, any idea what they said?
No.
Okay. You can hear it one more time. Okay, now we'll hear the real sentence.
The Constitution Center is at the next stop.
Does it make sense that time?
Yeah, wait, was that the same?
It was the exact same sentence that you heard the first time.
No way.
Amazing, right? So basically, if I know the quality is not great, but so the sentence is, the Constitution Center is at the next stop. And the first time you hear it, I'm a native speaker. The first time I heard that as with the computer distorted, I couldn't understand anything. But then, when my brain was primed by hearing the sentence in a normal voice, I could hear perfectly the distorted version. And again, this is another example of how all of your prior experience with English is going to prepare you to hear correctly all of the other stuff. And I've personally experienced this effect. And this is something important to know, so I was a native speaker, I grew up in Australia, and then I moved when I was 21. When I was 21 years old, I moved to London. And when I arrived, I had a lot of problems understanding certain people when they spoke. I would say a majority of people when they spoke. And it's a strange experience because they're speaking English. They're speaking all of the words that you know, but you just can't. It's just it's a strange experience. And so I spent the first sort of 3 or 6 months saying, what? Sorry, could you repeat that? But then, of course, with time, my experience with the accent prepared me to then understand the accent without any problems. Now, I know that is an anecdote, but what I'm saying is that these are not just fun audio and visual illusions. They are evidence that all of the time that you spend actually using the language, like reading it, speaking it, listening to it, all of that prepares you to actually use English and just be better at English in general. And I was going to talk a little bit about how that could affect your preparation for exams, but I think I'm going to leave that for the next Daily Digest. So I hope you enjoyed today's audio and visual illusions. So please realize that it's not a waste of time sitting down and reading a book instead of doing a grammar exercise. It's actually way better. I'm Christian, this is Canguro English. I'll see you in class.